Karen. All right, welcome back. Lots of phone calls coming in tonight, and quickly, we could argue this to the end of time, but I was pointing out, we were talking in the break to Robin, Philip said, well, this woman put herself in this position. Victim blaming can be infinite. I said I could be at a restaurant, walk home at midnight 2 blocks to my condo and get raped, and then someone's going to say, hey, you shouldn't have been out walking late at night by yourself. Your fault. You put yourself in that position. At the end of the day, my question, as you make your phone calls in, we know where the law stands is, despite what the victim did or didn't do in this case, did these 4 men or whoever, did they have the right to sexually violate her? Alcohol or no alcohol, you know what I mean? What if you took Ambien because you can't sleep at night and a friend of yours is over and rapes you while you're knocked out on Ambien? Did you make yourself vulnerable because you have a prescription for a sleeping pill? So, all right, let's get to Karen. Hi, Karen. Thanks for calling in. What do you have to say?
Hi. I don't agree with that guy that was just talking at all. I don't care what the woman was, drunk, sober, whatever. I think that she should have, she didn't put herself in that position, and no man has the right to rape a woman. I don't care who they are. None whatsoever.
Well, thank you. Thanks for calling in and sharing that with us. I think a lot of women out there will agree with you. So, thank you.
I just think that guy was just a little weird.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Karen, for calling in. All right. Let's go now to Donnie, who's been waiting patiently. Donnie, what do you have to say?
I got a couple of questions. I'll try to be brief.
Okay.
My first question, okay, that man that called in, he's retarded, well, I don't even want to say that because retarded people ain't that way. A woman shouldn't be, nothing be wrong with a woman. If a woman is awake and says no, I don't care if you starting to be, intimate. If a woman says no, you got to stop right there. And even if she's asleep or anything, if a woman says no or can't say no, if she can't talk or anything, that's rape. No matter what you do, it's rape. And I believe she needs to have on trial, not her, but she needs to be judged over that man and take judgment on everybody that done that and let her decide what they're going to be do with them.
Huh. Well, that would be trouble if our justice system worked that way.
All victims do have a right to have a voice at the sentencing hearing.
Right, and we don't know if she'll make a victim impact statement or something. We don't even know for sure that she's going to testify in this case, which is to be seen yet. But I guess as you follow it, we'll see what happens in the next few days. Thank you so much for your call tonight, Donnie. Thank you. Hey there, Ryan. What do you have to say?
Yeah, actually, what I am calling about is the domestic violence issues.
Okay.
As far as domestic violence, in my honest opinion, I actually believe that the domestic violence laws ought to be repealed. Not only should they be repealed, but they should be rewritten. The problem with the domestic violence laws as they are, there's no differentiation as far as what is actually violent. I mean, you can be in an actual argument with a loved one, whatever. Just because of that argument, and I'm not saying all women, but some women use that as a weapon against a man. And if they're not getting along, whatever, they have an argument, she calls the police. She says she's in fear. That's all it takes to be charged with domestic violence. Now, even if the guy didn't do anything wrong, and then once it gets to the court process, it's just her word versus his. And, there's nothing he can do. Now, once he has that conviction under his belt, even if it's a misdemeanor, he loses rights. He loses the opportunity for jobs. I think it really needs to be relooked at and make a differentiation. And, if you have a violent case where somebody laid their hands on another person, yeah, make that a felony. A misdemeanor charge, you shouldn't lose rights because you had an argument or something like that. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, and it's affected a lot of people.
Okay, and we've discussed, Rob and I, right, we've discussed this on here before, that unfortunately there are cases where women might cry foul to get back and get revenge on someone when something hasn't happened, which takes away from real victims of violence.
Well,
So
let me kind of speak to that this way. First of all, there's not a crime of domestic violence in Tennessee. It's a domestic assault charge, okay? When a police officer is called, the police officer must find that there is probable cause that a crime has occurred. So the police officer weighs a lot of factors in determining whether there is probable cause that a crime has occurred and who the primary aggressor is. The primary aggressor is the preferred response for arrest. And so police officers receive training on how to define who the primary aggressor is, and that person is arrested. It is a misdemeanor, and you will lose your rights to possess a firearm. You can never, ever, never possess a firearm if you are convicted of domestic assault. However, if it's your first conviction, you can get it expunged. So let's be clear, there's not a crime of domestic violence, there is a crime of domestic assault. And just merely saying I'm in fear may not get you a charge of domestic assault against the other person, but it may be enough to get an order of protection.
okay, and let's make it clear, we do have women who are charged with domestic assault against men. We're not, saying that women are innocent. We have women who have done bad things to men in their lives.
Right, and there are men who are raped as well. There are men who are given date rape drugs in situations, and they're sexually assaulted. So we have to look at this issue as a matter of power and control.
Yes, overall, that at the end of the day, that's what it's going to be about.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right, well, thanks. And Tanisha has been waiting very patiently. Hi, Tanisha. What's your question or comment?
I just had a comment because I watched the trial today, and a couple of times the detective said that she was not asleep, and that on the video, there were times where, her response was not that of someone that was asleep. He also said that, she wasn't passed out drunk or anything like that because she went to her house, couldn't get in, and then went to Sheriff's house. And now, I would never accuse a woman of lying. I was not there. But I don't think that it is fair to call it rape if, first of all, both of them were drunk, not just her. So his ability to make the right decision was compromised as well. And I don't think that it's fair to consider it rape because you did more than you expected yourself to do while you were sober and realized it once you sobered up. I just think that there's a huge difference in rape and regretting what you did. The sex was consensual from a few of the different things that were said on the trial by the detective. I mean, he said she was awake. The incident with the bottle, he said she was awake. She was not fighting or resisting. So that makes the rape portion of it questionable for me.
Well, just because the person is awake, the issue is whether she had the ability to consent. That is the issue. And I think it gets back to Philip.
Was his ability not compromised, being that he was intoxicated? They were all drunk. All of them.
The issue is
I say no.
that a crime was not committed against him. He chose to commit this crime while drunk.
Yeah, I think it was, maybe you missed part of the trial coverage today. I mean, I watched all of it, and several times he said that they had proof that she wasn't conscious and able to give consent to anything. Above and beyond that, now they're arguing, yes, the players were drunk as well, but how drunk were they when they were texting their friends, sending pictures of what they were doing to her, looking up porn sites while she was being sexually assaulted? If you can send coherent texts to people, share these pictures, look up porn sites. You're sober enough to make that happen.
The issue is consent. The issue, Ms. Tanisha, the issue is consent. The issue is whether this individual that was perpetrated on, not the perpetrators, but the individual who was perpetrated on, whether she had the ability to consent. We're not, that's the issue. The issue is consent. So the prosecution will have to prove that, I'm going to say the defense will have to show, and the evidence will have to pour out on the jury would decide whether whether she had the ability to consent. It's a jury issue. So all the evidence has not come in. And I think the prosecutor's argument is that she was at a point where she could not consent.
Right.
So that is the issue is not whether these people were drunk or not, whether they were disabled or not. The issue is whether this person had the ability to consent.
Gotcha.
That is the issue. That's all we're dealing with, is this woman's ability to consent. So if you are out with somebody and you were given a drug, and let's say the drug made you awake, but did you have the ability to consent
To what was done to you, right.
done to you?
Okay. I see what you're saying.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into this victim blaming, is that, well, they were drunk, she was drunk, it's a wash. No, the issue is consent of this victim, okay?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say it's a wash.
Okay.
I will say that it's a really hard call.
Well, this is why they're going to bring it to trial, and the jury will have to make the decision of guilt or not guilty.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the issue.
Yeah, and thank you for following the coverage and being invested and being involved too.
Thank you.
All right, Tanisha, thank you. Okay, got a lot of calls coming in. We're going to try to get to everyone here. David, hi, what's your question or comment?
Hey, ladies, good evening.
Good evening.
I had two stories for you. When I was a kid, I was under 10 years old. My dad would drink a lot, and at the time we was living in Old Hickory. My mama had me sit across the street. My dad would get drunk, would beat up on my mom, and I'd come downstairs, and my mom would be knocked out cold on the floor. But I remember the other time when I was raped by a teenage girl, and my dad knew about it. Now, my dad's gone now, but I never asked my dad why. But I just think it's wrong when a man hits a woman. I know with me, if I ever hit on my wife, which I'm not married anymore, if I ever hit my wife, I couldn't stand myself the next morning know that I did it. And I just want to thank y'all for having this on TV. Y'all have a great night.
All right, David, thank you. All right, we got more calls coming in. Obviously, a lot to discuss, a lot of differing opinions here. So we're going to be right back. We're going to get to the rest of your calls and talk more with the ladies here. We'll be right back.